Islands have always been kind of mysterious, right? Isolated and misty, they make us think of all sorts of things. They whisper stories of the unknown. Some islands hide ancient secrets, others hold clues to mysteries we haven't solved. The Flannan Isle is one of those places. This tiny, faraway island near Scotland is home to a really creepy puzzle, the disappearance of its lighthouse keepers. The Flannan Isle is in the dangerous North Atlantic. It's a lonely place. Strong winds and huge waves make it a tough place to live. 7 pointy peaks stick up from the sea. The rocky shores aren't very welcoming. The island seems almost impossible to live on. But on its highest point, there was a beacon of hope. The Flannan Isle Lighthouse. Built in 1899, the Flannan Isle Lighthouse was a super cool piece of engineering. Standing tall on the remote Flannan Isles, it was a beacon of hope and safety for sailors navigating the treacherous waters of the North Atlantic. The lighthouse was constructed with the utmost precision and care, using the best materials available at the time. Its design was both functional and aesthetically pleasing, making it a marvel of its era. It was 75 feet tall, a towering structure that dominated the landscape. The height of the lighthouse was crucial, as it needed to be visible from a great distance. The engineers who designed it took into account the harsh weather conditions and the need for the light to be seen from far away. The structure was built to withstand the powerful winds and waves that frequently battered the island, and its light could be seen for 20 miles. This powerful beam of light was a lifeline for sailors, guiding them safely through the dangerous waters. The light was produced by a state-of-the-art lens system which magnified the light from a single lamp to create a beam that could cut through the darkest nights and the thickest fog. The lighthouse's light was a constant, reassuring presence for those at sea. Its job to warn ships about the dangerous Seven Hunters Reef. This reef was notorious for causing shipwrecks, and the lighthouse was the only thing standing between the ships and disaster. The keepers of the lighthouse took their job very seriously, knowing that countless lives depended on their vigilance. They maintained the light with meticulous care, ensuring that it never went out, even in the worst weather conditions. 3 keepers made sure the light always stayed on. These men lived on the island in isolation, far from their families and the comforts of the mainland. Their days were filled with routine tasks, from cleaning the lens to maintaining the machinery that powered the light. Despite the monotony, they took pride in their work, knowing that they were providing a vital service to the maritime community. Life on the island was lonely and the same every day. The keepers had only each other for company, and the isolation could be hard to bear. The island was often battered by storms, and the keepers had to be prepared for anything. They developed a strong bond, relying on each other for support and companionship. Despite the challenges, they found ways to pass the time, whether it was through reading, writing letters, or simply talking. The keepers fought loneliness and bad weather. The storms that hit the island were fierce, with winds that could knock a man off his feet and waves that crashed against the lighthouse with tremendous force. The keepers had to be constantly vigilant, ready to respond to any emergency. They wore heavy rain gear to protect themselves from the elements, and they worked tirelessly to keep the light shining no matter what. A supply boat and a telegraph connected them to the mainland. The supply boat brought much-needed provisions, from food and water to fuel for the light. The telegraph was their only means of communication with the outside world, allowing them to send and receive messages. These connections were a lifeline, providing a link to the world beyond the island. The keepers looked forward to the arrival of the supply boat, as it brought news and a brief respite from their isolation. This lifeline would soon become very, very silent. One day the supply boat arrived to find the lighthouse eerily quiet. The keepers were nowhere to be found, and the light was out. The island was deserted, and the fate of the keepers remains a mystery to this day. The silence of the lighthouse is a haunting reminder of the men who once kept its light burning, and the unanswered questions that still linger. On December 15th, 1900, something unbelievable happened. The Flannan Isle lighthouse went dark. A passing ship noticed it. Days later, a rescue ship, the Hesperus, arrived at the island. The crew found a spooky silence. The keepers, James Duckett, Thomas Marshall, and Donald MacArthur, were gone. The lighthouse door was locked. The clock had stopped. Inside, everything was a mess. A half-eaten meal was on the table. Creepiest of all, Two of the three raincoats were missing. Joseph Moore, a seasoned lighthouse inspector who'd seen it all, was sent to investigate the mysterious disappearance of the three lighthouse keepers. Moore had a reputation for being thorough and meticulous, qualities that were essential for unraveling such an enigmatic case. He arrived on December 29, 1900, a date that would forever be etched in the annals of maritime history. The weather was harsh, with biting winds and a relentless sea, but Moore was undeterred. He knew that the answers he sought lay within the confines of the desolate lighthouse. The scene that greeted him was disturbing. Supplies were low, indicating that the keepers hadn't left on purpose. The kitchen, usually stocked with provisions to last through the harshest of storms, was nearly bare. Empty storage shelves and a cold, unlit stove painted a grim picture of the days leading up to the disappearance. The last entry in the logbook was dated December 15th. It spoke of strong winds and rough seas, but nothing out of the ordinary for the time of year. The logbook, a vital record of daily life at the lighthouse, offered no immediate clues to the fate of the keepers. However, as Moore delved deeper into the log, he noticed some peculiar entries. The handwriting, usually steady and precise, became erratic and hurried. There were mentions of strange occurrences, unexplained noises, and an overwhelming sense of dread that seemed to pervade the lighthouse. One entry mentioned that the head keeper, Ducat, was unusually quiet and withdrawn. Ducat, known for his stoic demeanor and unwavering dedication, was not one to be easily rattled. Yet, the logbook suggested that something had deeply unsettled him. Another entry, even more puzzling, said that all three men began to pray fervently. This was highly unusual, as the Guardians were known to be men of routine and practicality. The sight of them praying together suggested a shared fear or a desperate plea for help. The mystery only deepened as Moore pieced together the fragments of their final days. What had brought these seasoned keepers to such a state of anxiety and fear? The lighthouse, once a beacon of safety and guidance, now stood as a silent witness to their inexplicable fate. Questions remained unanswered. There are many theories about what happened to the Flannan Isle keepers. A mystery that has intrigued historians, writers, and paranormal enthusiasts for over a century. Some say a giant wave washed them away. The theory suggests that the men were outside, perhaps securing equipment or performing maintenance, when a massive wave struck the island. The seas around the Flannan Isles are notoriously treacherous, with waves that can reach incredible heights during storms. This theory is supported by the fact that the west landing, where supplies were often delivered, showed signs of damage consistent with heavy seas. However, no bodies were ever found, which leaves room for doubt. This makes sense because the seas are very dangerous. The North Atlantic is known for its unpredictable weather and violent storms, which can turn deadly in an instant. The keepers would have been well aware of the risks, but even the most experienced seamen can be caught off guard by the sheer power of nature. The isolation of the lighthouse only adds to the peril, as help would have been hours, if not days, away. Others think one keeper went crazy and killed the others before killing himself. This theory delves into the psychological strain of isolation. Living in such a remote location, cut off from the rest of the world, can take a toll on one's mental health. The keepers were known to be under significant stress, dealing with the harsh environment and the monotony of their duties. Could one of them have snapped under the pressure? There were no signs of a struggle, but the eerie silence and the untouched meals left behind suggest something went terribly wrong. Could being so isolated have made them snap? The human mind is a fragile thing, and prolonged isolation can lead to severe psychological effects. The keepers had each other for company, but the constant exposure to the elements and the unending solitude could have driven one or more of them to madness. The lighthouse was their world, and the relentless waves and howling winds their only companions. In such an environment, it's not hard to imagine how someone could lose their grip on reality. Some even thought it was spies. This theory emerged during a time of heightened political tension. The early 20th century was a period of espionage and covert operations, with nations vying for power and influence. The Flannan Isles, though remote, were strategically located along important maritime routes. Could the keepers have stumbled upon something they weren't supposed to see? Were they silenced to protect a secret? The idea of spies adds a layer of intrigue and danger to the mystery, but it remains speculative without concrete evidence. This happened when Britain and Germany weren't getting along. The geopolitical climate of the time was tense, with the two nations on the brink of conflict. The Flannan Isles, though seemingly insignificant, could have been a point of interest for military strategists. The keepers' disappearance during such a volatile period raises questions about whether their fate was tied to larger, unseen forces at play. The lack of records or any official investigation into this angle leaves it as one of the more tantalizing yet unproven theories. Could the keepers have been kidnapped? The idea of abduction adds another layer of mystery. The remote location of the lighthouse would have made it an easy target for a covert operation. The keepers could have been taken by force, perhaps by a rival nation or even pirates. The lack of any signs of struggle or distress signals is puzzling, but it could indicate a well-planned and executed operation. The thought of the keepers being taken away in the dead of night, never to be seen again, is both chilling and compelling. Each theory has people who believe it and people who don't. The mystery of the Flannan Isle keepers has sparked endless debate and speculation. Historians, writers and enthusiasts have all weighed in, each bringing their own perspective and interpretation. Some theories are grounded in logical explanations, while others venture into the realm of the supernatural. The lack of definitive evidence means that the truth remains elusive, and each theory has its own set of supporters and detractors, but none give a real answer. The disappearance of the Flannan Isle keepers remains one of the most enduring maritime mysteries. Despite the numerous theories and investigations, no conclusive evidence has ever been found. The lighthouse stands as a silent witness to the events of that fateful night, its light still guiding ships through the treacherous waters. The mystery continues to captivate and intrigue, a testament to the enduring power of the unknown. The Flannan Isle has always had spooky stories connected to it. Local legends talk about creatures in the sea tricking sailors and causing shipwrecks. Some believe the island is cursed. People who believe in ghosts think the strange logbook entries are proof of something supernatural. Could the keepers have seen something not human? While these theories are interesting, there's no proof. We can't know for sure if they're true or not. More than 100 years later, the disappearance of the Flannan Isle keepers is still one of history's biggest mysteries. Tons of books, documentaries and podcasts have looked into it, but it's still unsolved. The island's remote location, the lack of clues, and the time that has passed make it almost impossible to find real answers. This just makes the story even more interesting. We're left wondering what happened to the keepers, lost forever to the sea. The mystery of the Flannan Isle lighthouse keepers reminds us how much we don't know. It makes us think about the things we can't understand. The island is like a silent guard, its secrets hidden under the waves. Did a terrible accident kill the keepers? Were they murdered, or did something truly strange happen that night? We might never know. The mystery continues, a reminder of the powerful sea and the unanswered questions that stick in our minds.